Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlia Swanson, and I'm super excited to be back with another artist series on Coffee with Carlia. And I am just super excited about this next guest. He is a light in the Charlottesville community and the University of Virginia community, and he is the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the University of Virginia. Please welcome Dr. Kevin McDonald. Hi, Dr. McDonald.
How are you? I'm
I'm
doing
doing
well.
well. Thank you so much for being here.
It's great to be invited. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I had to have you on the show. Okay, so first, starting off, can you tell me a little bit about your role at the university?
Yeah, so I lead the diversity, equity, inclusion efforts really collaboratively lead that at the university. There are a number of people that I think are engaged in the work. And so it's wonderful that we have a collaborative spirit at the University of Virginia. And then work in the community, doing community partnership work, also collaborating with a number of amazing people doing work in the community. So I came here in 2019, celebrated my 4 years of being here on August 1st. And it's been great. And I think my work and role kind of runs the gamut from faculty, staff, students, alumni, local community members, to thinking strategically about the work, to recruitment, retention. I mean, if we can think about ways that diversity, equity, inclusion, and even community partnership work kind of intersects, then there's probably a pretty good chance that my team and I can be a resource. So.
Wow, that's great. I can contest to the community efforts of the university. I've been to two other schools, and this is the first school where I feel like I've been immersed in the community, whether that's through like partnerships with City of Promise or Star Hill Pathways, being able to get out there. So the school really does do a great effort at facilitating those relationships. So I know that you've been in the diversity, equity, inclusion field for a long time. So was there one moment that kind of said set a light off to say this is what I want to do?
Wow, great question. So I started out in the field after law school. I worked for the Department of Justice, and I investigated complaints under the Americans with Disabilities Act by people with disabilities. But specifically, my work actually took me to investigating prison systems. And I can say that that was really an enlightening experience that I think set me on the path for doing this work, because I just heard these heart wrenching stories from inmates about how wardens didn't believe that they had any rights, and so didn't warrant any accommodations. And so you might have had inmates who had tested positive for HIV but were denied medical treatment, or inmates that used a wheelchair but could not gain access to a shower, and so they had to put themselves in vulnerable positions by crawling out of the wheelchair to crawl across this kind of bacteria-filled, dirty, grimy floor, or ask other inmates to help them by turning on the shower. It was just so anyway. Every heart-wrenching story, I felt like compelled that I was one of the people that needed to be in this space to kind of investigate these matters. Almost felt like on some level I was advocating, in ways that would support them being provided with treatment and accommodations. And so because that kept feeling like it was tugging at me in the right way, I felt like this was the space that I needed to be in. But I didn't know about the different ways that I could work in this space and feel fulfilled. And so I didn't really know about higher education, kind of fell into it. But once I did, I fell in love with it. And this is my sixth higher ed institution. And so from the first one to now, I've continued to just enjoy the work. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be in this space.
Wow, that's amazing. So you mentioned that you have a background in law. You also have a background in psychology and music because you sing. So how would you say how would you say having a background in all of those areas have contributed to your role?
Yeah, I think it was really helpful to have the legal background, particularly in the beginning, because I started in this field from a compliance standpoint. So investigating complaints of discrimination was really helpful to utilize and know or be kind of immersed in the law. And I think that's also been a strong underpinning for even the diversity work and kind of knowing how to navigate the legal parameters that are, becoming even more prevalent now, to even advancing diversity work in ways that are legally permissible, thinking about the recent SCOTUS decision. So I think that's been helpful. I think psychology has been helpful because I think inherent in this work are aspects of navigating the mind and counseling and a number of things that I think psychology was useful. I have a doctoral degree in higher education leadership, so I think that's helpful because I'm in this higher ed space. I think singing is helpful in ways that help introduce me to communities, right? And kind of break down kind of walls and barriers of what an administrator should be like or operate like. And it's just a great way to have community members kind of know me in a different way, right? I think kind of humanizes the role. So I think they all have actually contributed in some positive way to my work and my role and any impact that I've been able to make. So I'm grateful for all of them kind of being in my life.
I definitely agree. So, we know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is kind of a buzzword. It feels like every organization now is looking for ways that they can implement this, ways that they can do this better. So, thinking of it, this is in my opinion, I think it's more prevalent now that organizations are making a conscious effort to do this. So, in your long career, what would you say is the difference between maybe in 1996 when you started and now the way organizations are trying to implement it?
Wow. Well, I think, gosh, I feel old.
No.
I was like, man. Well, I think back then, if there were organizations that really kind of believed in the work, you kind of just move forward with it. You kind of were unapologetic in doing it. And I think now, just because of the moment that we're in, and maybe there are different cycles of this moment, but the moment that we're in, there's a level of scrutiny attached to it that I think for those that are still committed to the work that you're doing it, but you're trying to figure out how can I be strategic? How can I do this in ways that understand the political shifts in my space and maybe in my region and my state, and how can I do this in ways that are far more savvy politically, right? So I do think that there has been some shift there in the way maybe that we're kind of navigating it, but I don't think that that should any way minimize an organization's ability to stand firm in their belief, support, commitment for diversity, equity, inclusion, and community partnership work, and their desire to continue to build on foundations laid and build momentum to move the work forward.
That's so true. And I think it's a great space. So I got degrees in music education. That's one place where they're really trying to think about how do they negotiate diversity, equity, inclusion, whether through like music programming, what songs does the orchestra play, what guest artists do we bring in. So it's been exciting to start to have those conversations in that space. So could you shed a light on some common challenges that someone may face pursuing a career in diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Yeah, I think what I found incredibly important to the work is being a part of organizations where you have an institutional commitment or a leadership commitment. I mean, I've been in spaces when I didn't have that, and I think I had so much energy and fervor around the work that I was still going to be committed to moving it forward anyway and aligning myself. It's just a little harder. So I think being a part of spaces where you feel like there's this organizational or at least leadership commitment to this, it really makes your work a little bit easier because you feel like you have that level of support and the latitude to do the work, to succeed or fail. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect and that you're not going to have moments where you stumble, but I think the goal in the end is to have more successes than failures. But I also think there has to be this recognition that if you really want to be in this space, that there are going to be times in which you have to face adversity, which there are going to be challenges, and that you don't give up, right? And that if you really feel called to do this work, then align yourself to it, continue to believe in yourself, kind of be your own hype person every morning before you go into work to say that you were built for this, you were meant for this, and that you're going to align yourself with the people that will allow you to be successful. And I think, and then surround yourself with a supportive crew, right? Whether that may be at work or outside of work or maybe both. But, you're just going to have times when, you're going to feel down, you might doubt yourself, and it's just good to, have supportive pillars that are around there. So I think all of those things, I mean, um, maybe the last thing I will say is control your narrative too. Think about how to control your narrative. So, the impact that you want to make. And I never believe that you need to stay somewhere where you feel like you're not valued, where you're not appreciated, where your work is not appreciated, because that doesn't do any good to you, probably doesn't do any good for the institution. So, think about controlling your narrative. You want to be in spaces where you are respected, the work is valued, and as a result, I live by this notion that sometimes you have to go to grow, right? And so that may mean that you need to leave a situation to continue to develop and get the support you need.
Well, I love that advice. Finding your tribe, having a community, and go to grow. That is a word. That is a word. I love. Okay, so from your perspective, what is the intrinsic value of diversity, equity, inclusion to the student experience at UVA?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I mean, this notion about DEI isn't about trying to change someone's ideology. I think your lived experiences, your perspectives of the world are really important, but your ability to navigate and negotiate those differences within an organizational context are critically important to your success post graduation. And so organizations are looking for um, new associates within their organizations that can work in diverse teams, can figure out how to leverage these diverse perspectives to tackle and resolve common problems of the day, right? And they recognize that's what makes them a better organization, a stronger organization, more productive organization. And they recognize that the notion of having a homogeneous team or homogeneous thinking is not going to get them far in this market, right? You have to be cutting edge. You have to continue to look at problems through different lenses. And so we need people who are prepared for that. So your preparation starts here, right? I mean, you take those lived experiences, but you're able to articulate in an interview how you've been exposed to, how you've engaged with difference, how it's enhanced you, being able to point to your transcript. I often tell the story that I worked at a university where companies stopped their recruitment efforts from there, right? And we couldn't figure out why. So we sat down with executives from General Electric and we said, what's the story? Why are you stopping your recruitment efforts here? And they said, it's not that your students aren't academically gifted. You graduate a plethora of 4.0 students from this institution, but we don't believe that they have the multicultural competencies or the interdisciplinary experiences to impact the bottom line of our global organization. So we're seeking institutional partners unapologetically that are showing that level of thoughtfulness and intentionality in student development and the student experience. And that was like a drop the mic moment. We were like, whoa. But then student government got wind of that conversation and they said, let us get this right. So our degrees are diluted and we're not competitive in the marketplace. What's wrong with that picture? And they passed a student resolution asking for a diversity requirement. So that to me was like, okay, that's a business case for why this is important, why students need it, why universities need to be intentional about creating this space, and why students need to be able to point to those experiences both on their transcript and off of it, that prepare them for the global marketplace.
Wow, that's amazing. And that is so true. And I love how you have a broad definition of diversity. I was watching a talk that you did where you were at another institution. You were talking about how a lot of the students were deaf or hard of hearing. And I think that kind of opens their perspective for what people think of as diversity. So having that broad definition is also so important. So, how would you say the arts contribute? You kind of talked about this a little bit, but how would you say the arts contribute to uniting communities and fostering a sense of togetherness?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we use the arts even in our own division, right? I mean, the university has a very complex history in the local community rooted in slavery. And so the notion of trust isn't easy to come by. And so it's been wonderful to use like things like music and poetry and even dance and everything to bring both the university community and the local community together in ways that can break down those walls of distrust have people embracing and dancing and having a good time together and recognizing and seeing people beyond their original kind of affiliation with them, right? Oh, I only see you as a university representative, so that must mean you support this history, right, deeply rooted in slavery or something else. And even for me, when I came here, I remember the president asked me, how's it going? I said, well, 50% of the time I go to meetings in the community, they're like, oh, great, you're from UVA, come on in. And other 50%, they're like, oh, he's from UVA. You know what that means. All right, come on in. So I had to break that down, and I had to continue to show up and be invited and listen to critiques and, show that I didn't have a hidden agenda. And I just think arts is a beautiful way to kind of permeate people's kind of minds, go past their biases or maybe history that may have a negative connection to it, and leave a positive footprint and imprint on them that can have them thinking differently about people, about situations, and about organizations. So I love it. I love the arts. Was exposed to it growing up, and I've always had a connection. And sometimes in this work, there are leaders in the DEI space that say, I only want to focus on policy, and I don't want to focus on programming. I don't do programs, and I don't do this. And I treat this like the multiple choice test that I would take in college. I'm answering like all of the above for each and every question, right? I'm basically saying, no, this all contributes to what we're trying to do. This doesn't make you any less of a leader because you're going to invest in programs. You saw me on stage, right? And trying to break down those misconceptions of what they believe a leader or a leader at UVA or one in my space should be like or act like. And I just think all of those things are important for this work.
That is so true. And I have to tell you, it was my first year here. I went to the Black History concert with Anthony Brown, and it felt like a warm hug for that to be kind of my first introduction to the UVA community, seeing the students there, seeing community members, seeing you there. It was a great experience to have that warm welcome and to see the community, and to see people that look like me, which was very important.
What I love about it, that's what we were trying to do, right? We were trying to, one of the things we would hear is that when you come to institutions like at a smaller college town, and maybe you come from larger metropolitan areas, you feel like you have to give up things that were important to you there. Maybe you got in a large supply, like music and the arts. And so one of the things that people would say to me at other places, like, man, if we could only have that here. And so you hear it enough and you say, well, why can't we? Let's just do it. Let's do it. And let's try to make it free so everybody can access it, right? And have a good time. Like, there's no excuse not to come in and just have a good time with one another. I really appreciate, that's what I appreciate, so that you as a student or a faculty member, staff member, maybe someone in the community that's new to the community that can come, or maybe they're a seasoned member of the community and they were like, we never got this here. And now they can know, like, I'll be out to dinner and they'll, particularly after that concert, it's so crazy. I would be out to dinner after that. And I will have people coming to me like, we see what you're doing in the community and we love it. We were at the concert. We can't wait till next year. Like, I love that. I love that. So yeah, it's been great. And honestly, I'm so grateful for the president for supporting that type of vision, because it's not easy to say we want to do something in the community, and although by the way, we want to offer it for free. So I want to be able to utilize some resources to really try to create a stronger sense of community and belonging that's going to help us at UVA, but also is going to help our community as well. And he didn't even blink an eye. He was so supportive. And so I think it also speaks to the leadership that we have at the institution.
Well, I think it's truly making a difference. So we switched from community relations to community partnerships. I want to talk about a little bit how the switch in terms maybe changed the relationship between the university and the community.
Yeah, it's a great question. So many other places that I've been, the notion of community relations, or even community engagement, is pretty prevalent, right? And coming here, I think even for the president, notions of community relations, even for me, experiences with community engagement were really the kind of flavor of the day. But here, the community really shared a valuable perspective, and it shows the need to be able to listen to the community and pivot when you needed to. But they said, listen, for us, community relations and community engagement has a far more extractive history with the university, right? Yeah, they related to us and they engaged with us, but in ways that took from us and never felt like a partnership. They would come in, they would conduct research. They would never talk to us about what the research, what the results of it were. They just used it for their own gain. So it was really interesting. And I just kept getting steady doses of this from a historical perspective. And they said for us, what really would matter would be the notion of partnership, because there's some level of equal footing for that for us, right? We have to co-create it. We're leaning into co-creating. We get to co-create that experience. And I loved it. And so, yeah, so that's how it kind of came about. It was really the interactions here in this community in which they just gave candid feedback that we took and utilized, at least in our work. Others across the institution, I think, we're doing it as well. Other faculty were doing that, and people to engage and work in the community. But at least as far as our direct work in the community for a division, it was those times when we heard directly from the community. That
Oh,
really,
I love that. I think words are just so important and what type of feelings that they bring up within the community. So that idea of co-collaborating, I love it. Okay, so if someone's listening to this and they wanted to know how do I get involved in some type of way, whether they're a student, a faculty member, a community member, what are the steps?
ooh, that's a great question. So I think there are multiple ones, right? So if they're a student and they're part of a student organizational context and they really want to get more involved in diversity, equity, inclusion work, we have something called Inclusive Excellence Grants that we support student organizations that want to do DEI work, but with one catch. Like, they can have access to some significant funding, but they have to work with another student organization that's different from their own, right? So that's pretty cool. But it's a partnership between the president, the provost, and our division. So we have like $45,000 worth of funding, and we can support student organizations. So that's pretty exciting. And then if they go to our website, our DEI website, I think it's like DEI dot maybe dot Virginia or at virginia.edu, or .virginia.edu. We have a number of things that they're on our research page, are a number of things that we're engaged in. And if people have any interest in any of that, they can reach out to us and talk about or inquire how they can get involved. We have positions called Inclusive Excellence Student Fellows. And so if you're and you can kind of get engaged with us that way. We have that for faculty as well. So that's one way. We're always engaged with stuff in the community. And so we love to kind of partner in the community. If people are interested in any of the events that we're putting on, we welcome the opportunity for them to partner with us, or maybe they want to be listed, they believe in what we're doing, they want us to list them as a supportive sponsor, then we can do that. I think it looks great when we are showing how we all come together for one kind of common aim, so I love that as well. I think we are a pretty collaborative division, so we want to engage. Like, we are really supportive of students and student organizations and their own events. So when they have signature events, they'll reach out and we'll meet, and we'll identify some way that we can support them. So we like that, doing that as well. So probably in multiple ways. I think for us, we recognize the importance of relationship building. So honestly, it's kind of like you and I meeting here, or you reaching out to me and me responding. I like being able to meet with people, getting to know their own story, their journey, because I think it makes us more apt to want to work together, right, when I do that. So I think reaching out to me, connecting, being able to set some time to meet, talk something, maybe it's over food or something, just to be able to get to know one another, and then talk about ways in which we could collaborate would be some next steps.
Wow, that's great. So there are many ways one can be involved. Okay,
Absolutely.
looking forward, what are the next steps for DEI at UVA?
Yeah, it's good question. I mean, it's a lot going on in our nation, in particular. There are some states that have passed legislation, anti-DEI legislation. The Chronicle is actually tracking those states and the bills that have been introduced. We have to navigate things a little differently after the Supreme Court decision. And so, looking at our policies and processes, our programs and scholarships and financial aid offerings that might have that, and seeing what may be interpreted as being connected on the basis of race. And so there's a lot of things going on, I think, as the institution that we're trying to be pretty intentional about. But we're also recognize that even in the face of that, we're committed to both the student experience, to our new and returning students and faculty and staff, to making sure we're still focused on creating a stronger sense of belonging. This spring, April 3rd, we're going to have our first Sense of Belonging conference at UVA and Newcomb. So we're really trying to just build out that piece as well. So I think those are some of the next steps, kind of navigating the impact of the Supreme Court decision on our work and trying to move forward in a way that still shows really intentional commitment to building a diverse student, faculty, staff body, and continuing our own kind of programming, and working on creating a community at UVA, and supporting the community in Greater Charlottesville that feels a stronger sense of belonging and of kind of a family.
Well, that is so important. So I have some fun questions for you
Okay,
now.
all right, I'm ready.
What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, what's that? Just a small town, living in a. I used to sing that with my daughter. Took the midnight train going anywhere. Don't stop
Don't
believing.
stop
Yeah, don't stop believing. So if my daughter was here, we would always do that because she's singing on Glee. So that would be my only one. But we would do it in harmony. And now that she's not here, but yeah, that would be the one that one wouldn't think. If it's my wife, it's always some Mariah Carey song. But if it's me, it's like that. And then after that, I could go in a number of different ways. I don't know. After that, I'm open.
Wow, I was not expecting that one. You got me.
See?
Okay. Okay, so I know that you are vegan for real. What is your favorite vegan dish?
Vegan, you said for you, you really want to be like, for real, y'all. He is actually vegan. That is a really good question. So I like the kind of meat substitutes. So I like things that it could be like a vegan chicken option, or really vegan chicken. I like a lot. So it could be vegan chicken. Now I'm delving into like vegan beef stuff, but I like they have the seitan beef over at Pineapple's Thai restaurant that I've been feeling a lot. But I like vegan, like chicken, mock chicken or something like that. Those are good. But I'm open because I like vegan sweets too.
Oh,
Carlia,
that's
yeah.
really
So
cool.
so I make like a vegan to die for vegan ice cream pie with graham cracker crust. Come on now, come on.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm open. I do like food. I'm a foodie. So any place that has like vegan options, I'm always trying to test it out to see like if I could make a strong living, like doing like being a vegan food cricket, I would do it. I think I would do it. I don't think there's enough support for the vegan folk out there for me to make a living. But I would do it. I like my wife and I both like to kind of try different vegan things to see what we like and what we don't like.
Well, I think you could give Tabitha Brown a run for her money. I think
Right? You
you could
think?
do
I
it.
feel
Yeah,
like Tabitha needs to call me, and like I feel like we could really partner and do some things together.
I think
She's,
so.
she's probably going to see this and she's gonna be like, oh, you know what? Let me call that brother. I need to go ahead and have him on my show.
I think so. I think so. Okay, if you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Woo! Honestly, to be able to read people's minds. I
Mm.
wish I could tell what they were thinking, because honestly, if I could just be honest, I would really hate to waste my time with people that don't like me because of my race, or don't like, you know what I mean? Like if they're thinking like I'm talking to him, but I cannot stand him for this. Like I just would like to know that up front. It would help. My responses, or I just think that could be helpful to know what people were thinking. So I think that would be, when I was younger, it's so crazy. Like when I was younger, I'd go to bed at night and I would pray to the Lord. I was like, Lord, you don't have to, like, if you made me any one of these things, I would be happy. Like, can you make me the fastest person, the smartest person, or the tallest person, right? I felt like I was a little short, right? So I felt like you could just make me, and I laugh at it now because I'm like, look at me trying to reason with God. Like, I mean, I'm not asking for much. Any one of those three, I'd be happy, with. But I think reading somebody's mind would be pretty telling.
I like that you would save a lot of time with people. Okay, last question. If there was any gospel song you could hear right now, what would it be?
Ooh. I honestly I like the down home feel of Kirk Franklin, something about the name Jesus. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I think that's a nice go-to. I mean, at the concert this past winter, a one that feels like it flies under the radar that I sang there was "I'm Still Here" by Dorinda Clark Cole, and that's a bad song, but I think that just down home for whatever that Kirk Franklin, something about the name Jesus comes on, and Rance Allen is like when you hear that, like everybody can't help but yeah, right, can't help but bob their head to it. So I just think that's one of those ones that kind of makes you smile, takes you back, no matter where you are, and just has you feeling warm and fuzzy inside. So I like that one.
Wow, that is a great choice. And you gotta love Rance Allen with all his,
Right, right.
his vocal
I can never do
acrobatics.
that. I can never do that. I have much respect for him.
Well, thank you, Dr. McDonald. I had a great time getting to know you, getting to know more about the work at the community. Thank you so much.
Well, I really appreciate the invitation to be on. I didn't even know about this podcast, so kudos to you for creating it. I know it's meeting a need for our students and our community, so I'm glad that you're doing. I'm glad that you're here, and I really appreciate the invitation to come and participate today.
Oh, well, thank you. It was my pleasure. I will see you soon.
Okay, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.